Once, a devotee asked Bhagavan Ramana, "Is there any hope?" Bhagavan replied after a moment, "Yes, there is hope. There is hope."
Surrender to God. Say, "Do as thy wish." Trust God. Do not wait in the thought, "When will I attain self-knowledge?" Do not question God. "When will you liberate me?" Instead, say, "Oh, God, it is your will whether you want to bestow me with self-knowledge. It is your will whether you want to bestow me with liberation. Let thy will be done and not mine. I will not command you to act in a particular manner. Do as thy wish. Attain such a state of mind. God will then bless you with peace."
In the marital garland of letters, Bhagavan Ramana said, "If you desire something, God's grace is limited to that desire alone. But, on the other hand, if you don't desire anything, God fulfills your desire and blesses you with liberation also."
Act as per God's will. Once, Bhagavan Ramana told a devotee, "You cannot behave as you wish. Act according to God's will. Only then can it be called spiritual practice." Spiritual practice implies understanding, maturity, realization, light and knowledge, peace and happiness. It doesn't imply sitting down with a running nose. Devotion doesn't mean leading a life with irrational beliefs or foolishness. True devotion begets strength. Don't ever command God to act according to your wish. Act according to God's wish. It is God who bestows you with His very nature. You will not get liberated till He blesses you with the same.
Love for the sake of love without even seeking self-knowledge. Sri Nanagaru said, "I have been visiting Arunachala for a long time. But I have not asked Arunachala to bestow me with self-knowledge. Why? It is due to an unrestrainable liking for Arunachala. It is good to ask for self-knowledge. But I did not even ask for self-knowledge. One may ask me why I visited Arunachala. I love Arunachala not for self-knowledge but only for the sake of love. You need to grasp this. Love for the sake of love and not for self-knowledge. Leave alone the ordinary things. I did not even ask Arunachala for self-knowledge till now. Now there are big buildings for our accommodation in Arunachala. However, previously we used to sleep on mats in Ramanashram. There used to be a gentleman's guest house in Ramanashram. We used to sleep on the mats provided by the Ramanashram people in that guest house. If there was no vacancy, we used to sleep in Chalam Garu's house. At least 10 people got accommodated in a small room in Chalam Garu's house. Even though it was very congested, I never thought of constructing any building in Arunachala. I have been visiting Arunachala only out of love and not to seek self-knowledge.
Everything happens in its own time. Narendranath was the pre-monastic name of Swami Vivekananda. After the death of his father, Narendranath suffered from acute poverty. A devotee approached Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and said, "Narain, a great intellectual, very good at heart, an enticing personality, a great devotee, an embodiment of wisdom, whose both the eyes are enchanting, whose face reflects a great radiance, is suffering from an acute poverty." Sri Ramakrishna replied, "The dusk has not yet arrived. It is still 10 a.m. and not 6 p.m. You have to wait for 8 more hours for it to be 6 in the evening." Sri Ramakrishna implied, "The good days for Narain are yet to come. The day when Narain will get enlightened has not yet come. One day, Narain will become a great spiritual teacher enlightening the entire humanity. He will attain worldwide fame. Even his poverty will vanish away. But the time has not yet come. Everything happens in its own time.
Death approaches us only at the arrival of the appropriate time. The same is the case even with self-knowledge. Suppose you don't like a particular person and desire their death. They will not die due to your desire. They die only on the arrival of the appropriate time. Suppose you have bedridden older people at home. Don't desire their death. They will not die until the arrival of the appropriate time. It is the same even with self-knowledge. Chalamgaru used to quote some sayings like, "You can't even shit on getting tensed. How can you attain self-knowledge on being tensed? Everything happens in its own time. Suppose you sow a seed today. How can you expect to get a tree by tomorrow? It takes time for the seed to grow into a tree. Similarly, one needs maturity to attain self-knowledge. It doesn't mean that there is no benefit in visiting Arunachala several times. Let's take the instance of a coconut. Suppose we keep beating it on the ground, and the coconut breaks only on the 10th beat. Does it imply that all the prior 9 beats were useless? The coconut broke not merely due to the 10th beat, but all the previous 9 beats contributed to the coconut's breaking. Similarly, even if you visit Arunachala and attain self-knowledge in a single day, it is not the result of that single day. It results from the effort of several births and the love for Arunachala. No one will go back empty-handed from Arunachala. The atheists become theists, the theists turn out to be devotees, and the devotees become jnanis. A jnani alone attains the very nature of God. Your hand gets burnt whether you touch the fire knowingly or unknowingly. You need not ask, "Oh, fire, please burn me when I touch you." The fire does its work whether you request it or not. It is the same even with Lord Arunachala. Whether we ask him or not, he performs his work.
God is omniscient and the ever-witnessing one. God exists. He exists as the indweller. When you become fit enough and qualify for His grace, He blesses you with His very nature. It happens only in your last birth. Therefore don't claim, "I have devotion and knowledge. I am constructing temples, digging wells, and worshipping God, and hence God has to listen to me." Instead, learn to abide by God's will. Mend your life according to His will. It is only called self-knowledge. Don't act hastily. If you possess devotion and surrender towards God, God blesses you with everything at the appropriate time. God knows what is best for you. You think that God doesn't know about you. Your ego has gone to such an extent that it presumes that God doesn't know anything. God is omniscient and the ever-witnessing one. Einstein said, "God is not an objective reality. He is not visible to your eyes. Don't presume that God doesn't exist since He is invisible. All that is visible is not true. If God is also visual, how can He be true? Then what is the purpose of toiling hard for several births to attain that which is untrue? Why should you crave that nose you will lose on a mere sneeze? God is the absolute truth. God is one and only one. You are unable to view Him alone in all this diversity.
God decides when and where to bless. God decides what you should do. He also decides when and where you should be doing it. He chooses when and where to bless you with self-knowledge. Recently a devotee said, "Nana Garu, God first blessed me with good thinking faculty and later money. Had he blessed me with the money first and then with the good thinking faculty, I would have lost it entirely in a card game. I would have become hopeless both in this world and the worlds beyond. Therefore God decides in advance when and where to bless you.
God waits so that you will not get ruined. When death can accompany you like a shadow forever, why can't God accompany you? If you ask God for something and He doesn't bless you with the same, don't think otherwise. God will indeed bless you. He waits so that you will not get ruined on attaining it immediately. God is ready to bless you with liberation here and now. But are you prepared to bear the same? You cannot restrain yourself when you are lucky, getting some money, or winning an election. You ask your acquaintance, "Who are you?" You ask your relatives, "From which place do you hail?" "I remember seeing you somewhere." So how can you bear liberation? Therefore don't be in a hurry. If you pray to God desiring something, He decides an epoch for when, where, and how to bless you with the same. If God feels you will get ruined, He will delay showering His blessing. He will look after your everything.
Don't worry. Place your burdens upon God. Don't worry about anything. Get rid of worry and learn devotion. The fire burns only the dead, whereas worry burns a person all alive. Hence don't worry, learn to put your burdens upon God. God can bear any amount of burden. When God is bearing the burden of this entire universe, can't He bear your burden?
Don't ever give up hope. Once, a devotee came to Bhagavan Ramana and said, "Bhagavan, I have lost everything. How should I live?" Bhagavan replied, "Do you still have the hope to live?" The devotee replied, "Yes." Bhagavan said, "That is enough to bring you back everything. Don't ever give up hope. It will also bring you liberation. Don't give up the hope of attaining self-realization. Don't get worried if you don't possess devotion. Instead, try to achieve the same. Devotion begets liberation. Learn devotion rather than getting worried. There is hope. One may live even without food but not without hope. Have the hope that you will see God one day. Have the hope that God will bless you with self-knowledge.
Everything happens in its own time. It's all written in the stars. Everything happens in its own time. For everything there's a season, a reason, and a rhyme.